Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is Ty, the LinkedIn guy, and today I want to talk about saying no. Saying no. And that can mean, saying no to potential clients, saying no to customers, saying no to opportunities, and having those uncomfortable moments. And this is the thing. For me, I'm on the DISC assessment, high D, high I, 99D, 99I. And conflict, something I want to avoid where possible. And as a high I as well, I also want to kind of please people and and help people. And it can be really, really hard to say no to opportunity, to requests. The problem is until you can really master saying no, you are at the mercy of other people's needs and schedules and times, and it will ultimately have impact on your business. And I know it's tough. I know it's really tough. And some people, hate it, and I hate it. So what I want to talk about today, just briefly, is go through a number of different things I've picked up and learned and seen and heard that you might be able to employ in your business and in saying no. Firstly, one thing that we really have to keep in context, and this can really help, is that in a business, it's normal for people to say no. Right? It's normal for you to hear no when you're trying to make a sale or you're trying to do a pitch. Like, you get it on the receiving end. You get it. And I know it sounds really logical and basic, but that's one of the first things to really get down pat. Keep in perspective that no is okay in business. Right? And you just got to put your big boy's pants on and realize that it's going to happen over and over and over again. You're going to be on the receiving end of it as well. So if you're going to be on the receiving end of it, hey, be the person giving the nose out as well. That's a real basic one to set yourself on the mindset route. One of the other big things that I have really, really noticed is when you know your product, when you know your service, when you've got it down pat, like inside out, back to front, you're going to say no based if it is a fit or if it's in your interest and in the client's interest. Now, I get this quite often. I get so many people applying for breakthrough calls and will tell me, well, no, you've misunderstood. I'm this and I'm that and I do this. And still, it doesn't matter. I know the market. I know my product. I know my style. I know my strategies. If it's not a fit for them, hold yourself, to that. Don't then placate and okay, well, let's do it and see. If you know it's not in their interest and therefore not in your interest, you've got to stay fast on that. You've got to hold fast to that. And you have to be as strong in your position as they are in the way that they're begging or negotiating and wanting that as well. So you really have to know your product and service inside out. So then you know if it's in your interest and their interest, right? And a good one that either Russ Ruffino or Mark Van Musa said, I'd rather let them down at the start and disappoint them than at the end. And that's so true, right? Nothing's worse than promising or accepting and giving it a half effort, and then at the end, the result's just not what is expected. Now, if you can avoid that at the very beginning, you're doing them a favor. You're doing yourself a favor. So sometimes you've just got to bring that disappointment up to the front, and you have to be good with that. Yeah. Now, another way that makes saying no easier is by looking at the process. For example, if a client is coming to you, or you're getting invited to pitch for something or send a proposal, you are losing the control of that process, right? When you have to submit to someone's process, you lose control. Now, if you're okay with that, then fine. However, as you probably know, if there's just a standard process that you have to fill out and you've got to send these forms and do that and do this, and that you get to the end and then you realize your pitch was off message or it wasn't hitting the right buttons or whatever because you didn't get to follow your process of discovery, then that's a perfect reason to say no. And some of you are in businesses where you get invited to pitch a lot and you get invited to pitch for the business and present. And they tend to have very strict guidelines, and sometimes there's no engagement, with them. Now, you want to keep on the pitch list because it's great to get people coming to you with pitches, but it may be time for you to really evaluate that and look at the actual data. Look what happens when you go into a pitch. Look, when you are not having the opportunity to speak with these people and get those insights, what's the end result? What's the pitch rate and the close rate? If it's, you're spending all this time and there's core pieces of information that are getting missed out, then you've got to bring it up. And especially for those in agencies, for example, and I'm not talking, these Facebook ad guys, I'm talking, doing brand agencies or running campaigns, making ads, things like that. It's time for you to stand up and say no. Like, hey, I love that you've come to us. This is the process. But what we've found, and from our data, that if we don't do this, this, and this, we don't close. We don't get the business. And, our data's showing that. So, for us to be able to participate, to us to be able to take your pitch, us to accept you as a client, whatever, these are the processes that we have to go through. These are our steps. And we're happy to do that if we can follow that. What do you think? So let them say no to you. And that brings me to the point. It's a way to get around it is when they say no to you. Okay, so there's another method that you can use. So if you're talking about process where you don't want to participate in their process, tell them so and show them what your process is. If they agree, then great. You get to actually put them through your sales syntax and you have a higher chance of closing. But if they want you to stick with that process and it produces a very, very small conversion rate, say no. And you've said no for a reason. And as I said, make them say no to you. So they'll say, oh, sorry, Tom, we can't do that. We have to do it this way. I'm sorry. They'll be saying sorry to your no, which is great. And that's what you want. Another way is to make an offer that they can't accept, right? So sometimes, and I rarely do this, but if it comes up, and I know that there's a monetary constraint or a budget constraint, and that's my way to get out, then, quoting a price that they're not going to take. I know it sounds like, kind of a little bit, if they take it, make sure it's a price that you can live with and that you have the resources to execute and all that. But if it's, for example, you don't want to cause a rift with between the businesses, go with the higher price. Go with the price that is out of their budget. Let, again, them say no to you. That's really important. The other thing with saying no, already have your no, know your boundaries already, right? Know who you're going to work with, what kind of avatars, what kind of businesses, what kind of people, friends and family, are they on the no list? And then stick to that list. It will become known. Well, he doesn't work for people like that. He doesn't work with people like that. He doesn't serve that industry. But know your boundaries, have it very clear, and always hold yourself in integrity to those boundaries. Really, really important, right? When you say no as well, explain the constraints that are causing that no. Is it a resource issue? Is it an attention issue? Is it a budget issue? But when you do explain it, keep it short and sharp. It doesn't, and this is where I can fail, is I'll go on and give more of the story. The more you throw out there, the more you sound defensive, and the more opportunity it gets for them to question, well, this point we could fix that, or we could do like, keep your reasoning, it has to be real. It has to obviously fit within the boundaries, but keep it short and sharp. Hey, so I'd love to be able to help, but at the moment we've got all our resources are allocated. It's going to take X amount of time, and then you can give them a future. If it's something that it really is a constraint on resources and you'd like to work with them, well, give them hope that there's going to be something down the path where there's a free space. But keep it short and sharp. Yeah, really important. The other thing is the way you deliver your no is also critical. So say yes to the person, as they say yes to the person, but no to the offer, no to the opportunity. And what that means is, you're not going to leave them feeling it's a personal attack on them. So, you can frame your no's with, hey, thank you so much for coming to me. I've always been, a real fan of your work, or I've watched you, I've developed, whatever. Make sure they feel that it's not them, unless it is them, but in general, you say yes to the person, be gracious and thankful, and then no to the opportunity, right? Because then it leaves them feeling, okay, fair enough. And as I said, when you put it into perspective, in business, people say no. It's as simple as that. People say no. And I saw a really good example of this where, the guy from Entourage, Vincent Chase, what's his name? Adrian Grenier or whatever, was doing a pitch to Richard Branson. He got a meeting with Richard Branson, and Adrian had this, and this was the height of Entourage, where he was like really well known and everything like that. And he had some charity or something that he wanted, and he wanted Richard Branson to be involved. And right then and there, Richard's like, well, okay, I can see what you want, but yeah, I can't be involved. And the deflation, like, Adrian Green, you could see it. He was devastated. He thought it was just going to happen. And clearly, he hadn't been used to, I guess, recently anyway, at that point, no's. But keep it into perspective. There are going to be no's, and you should be comfortable with giving them. Yeah. So there's some tips that have kind of helped with me. I tend to try, as I said, I know my product, I know my services really well, and I'm really making the decision, is it in my interest and their interest? And I explain that to them. I keep it short and sharp, but there's reasons why I'm going to say no, and I tell that to them. And I stay in integrity with that as well. And, the tactic that I usually go when people aren't that fit is I want them to say no to me. Right? So it's either about process, like, hey, that process doesn't work. I need to follow this process to make it work. Or I make an offer they can't accept. Or if they do accept it, it's really in my favor and makes sense for me then to bring them on as a client, right? So a massive increase in pricing, deliverables, whatever it is, the obligation that they have to me, I just make it so they have to say no. So sometimes flipping and having them reject you, it leaves a good taste in their mouth. They feel like, hey, yeah, he didn't blow us off. He's given us attention. And, you get to fight another day, and you get to come back and pitch to them again, or they'll come to you again. And you've got to live with it. Sometimes you are going to lose an opportunity. And that's the other thing. If you say no, you've got to realize that may end that relationship. And if you're comfortable with that, or if you're not comfortable with that, then you're going to have to evaluate whether you take it on or not. However, just be aware that your no's can have those consequences, and you just got to be comfortable with it. Rarely will one deal make or break your business. And if it does, you probably got an issue that you have to evaluate and probably rejig your business, because if it's reliant on one client, one deal, that's a deck of cards. Yeah. So, anyway, I hope those, help. As I said at the start, as a high I, 99I, I don't like to say no. I don't like to cause that kind of pain and conflict for people, but, you just gotta in business. And, when things go against me in business, it has generally been because I have allowed it to happen. And there was a great quote. I can't remember who, maybe Tim Ferriss or someone said it. And it's like, success is proportionate to how comfortable you are at having uncomfortable conversations. Right. And it's a really truism, right, in business. Your success really can be related to how comfortable you are at having those uncomfortable conversations. So that's it for me. I hope that gives you some food for thought. And let me know if you've said no when it's gone really wrong. What's the worst time you said no when it went bad? Is there regrets that you've had when you've said no? I'd be interested to hear about that. And if you've got any other techniques, how do you say no? Let me know. I'm always trying to learn new ways of saying no and keeping myself focused on the stuff that counts. And that's important to me. So there you go. All right. Adios. See you later, guys.